Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first ever Emotion AI Developer Day. My name is Gabi Zijderveld. I'm a Chief Marketing Officer here at Affectiva. In addition to marketing, I also head up our teams for product management and developer evangelism. And I just wanted to briefly kick off the day and introduce Rana. Just for a little bit of context, why we came up with Developer Day and how this idea all started. It was actually this summer where internally we had all kinds of meetings trying to come up with interesting ways that we could get more visibility for our SDKs and how we could help developers around the world use our technology and drive kind of for ubiquity of emotion-aware systems, devices, games, and apps. And as we were brainstorming, one of our team members suggested we should do a developer day. And at first we were thinking about maybe hosting a small in-person event, and then realized that we could probably reach a lot more people if we made this an online event and brought all kinds of interesting external speakers into the fray who could talk about how they had been using our technology and how they had a hands-on experience building solutions that were emotion aware. Now, fast forward a few months, we've by far exceeded our goals for registration. We expected maybe we would have over, under just 100 people attending. As of today, there's over 300 people registered, so we're super excited for that. We're glad you're here today. Let me just briefly segue into a few logistical things, and then I'll introduce Rana. So as you saw from the Eventbrite emails that were sent, we kind of structured the day today in two different tracks. So there's sessions that run simultaneously, except for Rana's keynote, a lunch session, and then Tim's wrap-up at the end of the day. If you look at the schedule, you'll see that with each track, there's a WebEx URL associated, and you can basically jump back and forth between these tracks to just attend whatever session you would like. So please make sure that you're going to pay attention to that. We'd also like to ask you that if you do come into a session to please mute your microphone, because in principle everyone comes in with an open mic. We certainly will take questions, and we kind of structure that a bit differently depending on each session. Some people might want to have you just raise your hand and put a question into the Q&A box in the WebEx interface, and certainly we encourage you to do that. For some sessions we might take questions at the end. Either way, we want to hear from you. We want to make this interactive. We want to make sure that all your questions are addressed. So again, in the WebEx UI lower right hand corner there's a Q&A box. Feel free to post your questions there. Also, we'll be active on social media. Our Twitter handle is @Affectiva, and we're using the hashtag DevDay16. So if you have any concerns, any questions, feel free to post those there. And also we have a support email, devday@affectiva.com. Again, for any logistical or technical questions, feel free to send us an email there and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Rana Kaliouby. She's one of the co-founders of Affectiva and our CEO. And Rana today will talk about our vision, where we are taking Emotion AI, and also some very practical topics around what we have on the roadmap and what you can expect to see coming your way in terms of our technology enhancements. So without any further ado, welcome everyone, and Rana, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Gabi. Hi, everyone. I am Rana Kaliouby. I'm co-founder and CEO of Affectiva, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about how our technology is humanizing how we interact with both our devices and with each other. It is a real pleasure to be here today, and very excited to interact with you all. So let's get this kicked off. So our emotions influence every aspect of our lives. From our health and well-being to what we purchase, how we learn, and how we make decisions, including, how we vote, and how we connect with each other. And as we think about, the world we live in today, we are increasingly surrounded by hyper-intelligent technologies. Increasingly, these technologies have massive cognitive and autonomous abilities. Think self-driving cars, for example. But all these systems have high cognitive intelligence, high IQ, and no emotional intelligence. You may be thinking, like, why is that a problem, right? Well, it is a problem because our interactions with technology are rapidly becoming more conversational. We're spending more time interfacing with our devices, more relational. Arguably, you know, our phones are the first thing we see in the morning, the last thing we say goodnight to at night. And this is really not changing. So we ask, what if technology could identify emotions just as humans can? What if computers could tell the difference between a smile and a smirk? What if our cars knew we were getting angry and were able to respond appropriately? And what if our doctors could objectively measure how you're feeling the way we measure other vital signs? And, you know, one example I like to give here is, you know, you don't walk into a doctor's office today and they ask you what your blood pressure is. They just, you know, measure it. Yet today, the gold standard in understanding your mental and emotional health is by self-report. You get asked, how are you feeling today on a scale, you know, on 1 to 10? Well, one of our goals is to change that and, you know, put forth a way where you can objectively measure mental and emotional health. What if live broadcasters could identify an audience's emotion in real time and adapt that stream accordingly? And I, you know, as I present here to hundreds of people who are remote, you know, I can't help but wonder, like, what if I knew how emotionally engaged you all were, and I saw a little emotion meter at the bottom of my screen that would help me engage you better and adapt my message based on everybody's responses? And what if social robots could actually be social and respond to nonverbal cues? And then thinking big and ahead here, what if every device in the Internet of Things had an understanding of your emotional state, had an emotion chip that could make personalized suggestions based on your mood? And my favorite example here is a fridge that could identify, for example, that you're stressed and lock down the fridge and you know, stop me from eating that extra tub of ice cream. So our vision is to humanize technology with emotional intelligence. If you think of human intelligence, cognitive intelligence on IQ is obviously very important, but so is emotional intelligence. People who have higher EQ tend to be more likable, they're more persuasive, and they lead happier and healthier lives, both personally and professionally. And so in technology, we want to bring this emotional intelligence by enabling machines to be emotion aware, our different apps, our different devices, but also by allowing businesses to get emotion analytics. We live in an emotion economy, a world where there's a premium placed on emotionally engaged users and consumers, and businesses want to understand that, and we're here to bridge the gap with emotion analytics. So how do we do this? Humans are very expressive animals, and we express emotions in a number of ways, through our voice, through our gesture, through our physiology, as well as our face. Our face is one of the most expressive channels for communicating a wide range of emotions, everything from, you know, excitement and joy to anger and frustration. And so we measure facial expressions of emotions. We're able to use any kind of standard webcam. It tracks your facial expressions, which we like to call the building blocks of an emotional state, and then it maps it into a number of emotional states, such as joy, attention, or you know, sadness. What has been fascinating about this journey of you know, building emotion recognition technology, we got our start at MIT Media Lab. We spent about 5 years ago. And what's been fascinating is understanding or seeing that the applications of emotion AI cut across every aspect of our daily lives. And it's a technology that has the potential to transform many industries. And ultimately, our vision is that emotion AI is going to become ubiquitous. It's going to be the natural way we interface and interact with technology around us. And again, these devices are going to have a little emotion chip that can sense and adapt to your emotions. But what I wanted to do is just walk you through some of the use cases where emotion sensing and emotion tech is being applied today. And it really cuts across the gamut. So we have examples in media and advertising, automotive, robotics, online ads, healthcare. So in media and advertising, we work with 1/3 of the Fortune Global 100 companies. And there, the understanding is emotions are memory markers. They influence our brand awareness, they drive our purchase decisions, and major brands understand that, and they realize they want to build this strong emotional connection with their consumers, but they have a difficulty measuring it in a very scalable and objective ways outside of self-report. And so major brands use Affectiva's technology to quantify emotional engagement, a moment-by-moment response to content and video ads. And then they use this data to make decisions, such as how much money to spend behind a particular ad, or do they need to cut the ad from a minute to 30 seconds, which scenes get to go. Movie studios are using our emotion analytics to determine how viewers respond to these trailers, and they adjust it. So for instance, if you wanted to make the trailer more suspenseful, then you're looking for expressions of surprise or interest, and then you craft the movie trailer to maximize that. In gaming, we've seen examples where game developers are building emotion adaptive games, so games that could identify key emotional moments in a game and then trigger some kind of response based on that. That could be a monetization trigger, it could be a narrative fork, it could be a change in the environment, a change in the character's response. There's a whole host of ways where you can build emotion adaptive games. In education, here's one example of an app. It's a mobile app called Little Dragon, and it's the first app to be responsive to the emotional state of the learner. So it looks for expressions of happiness, expressions of confusion, frustration, and it adapts the learning experience accordingly. In healthcare, there are a number of applications. The idea here is to quantify a person's emotional and mental state in a more objective way, and also do that more in real time and more continuously, as opposed to waiting until you go into a doctor's office. With technology and with our type of technology, you can quantify that, these emotional states and moods over time, and build an understanding of a person's state. And again, use that data to flag all sorts of mental health disorders. One example here is one of our collaborators is a high school student called Erin Smith, and she is using our technology to discover biomarkers of Parkinson's, so early facial biomarkers that are indicative of onset of Parkinson's disease. She is currently working with the Michael J. Fox Foundation to validate some data. She's collected about 200 patients, data from 200 patients right now, and is working on further developing the algorithm. Another area where our technology can be very helpful is helping individuals on the autism spectrum. People on the spectrum tend to really struggle with understanding social and behavior, social and emotional cues in an interaction. So one of the ways our technology is being used is to help kids read these expressions in a social and cognitive skills training program. So we're partnered with a company called Brain Power. They use Google Glass to build these interactive games for kids to do more eye contact and learn how to identify different expressions. They are currently running a few clinical trials to test the efficacy of these games. So we've covered a lot of examples in education and healthcare. Another one is Giphy. So Giphy is one of the world's largest image search engines. They, if you are on social media, you will recognize the GIFs. So we are helping Giphy automatically index content to create these GIFs. Right now, they use human mechanical Turkers, and with our technology, we can bring a lot of efficiency and scalability to their process. Another example is TrueCar LED. This is a series of concerts that were held in Santa Monica last year. They used our technology to create a unique sensory concert experience. So they captured real-time crowdsourced emotional information. So TrueCar is another example. They run a series of concerts in Santa Monica, and they used our data to capture real-time crowdsourced emotional information and aggregated all that information and used it to power an interactive LED light show. that augments and transforms your traditional concert experience. And you can, you can generalize that to any form of entertainment where, some aspect of the experience is changing based on the vibe and the mood of the crowd. And then, you could take all this and you project to where the world is going. We are increasingly interacting with these devices that are becoming, kind of companions or intimate friends of us. And there's a number of examples here. So ID Avatars is a company that they have nurses that are able to check in with patients and make sure that they're adhering to their medication. Mabo is a social robot that does the same thing, but it takes an embodied form in terms of a robot, and it works very closely with terminally ill patients to ensure that, again, they're adhering to their medication. Tega is a robot that is built at MIT, and it is designed to be a learning companion for kids. It works, it interacts with young kids and helps them with language learning specifically. We've worked with MIT to deploy this robot in a number of schools, and the data suggests that kids who interact with this emotionally engaged robot learn more words, but they overall, enjoy the learning experience better. And then finally, Jibo is a social robot that is designed to be a member of your home. So it's about to get on market very soon, and they're integrating our SDK as part of the robot's interactive language. And finally, XPRIZE has just announced that our technology is going to be part of their IBM Watson XPRIZE repertoire of tools and suites available for anybody who wants to build the next version of an advanced AI system. Okay, so how do we make emotion AI ubiquitous? You'll have seen that just in the last few minutes, the examples I've given are across the board, and our vision is to make emotion AI ubiquitous. So here's our strategy. First of all, we realize that as a small team, we are not able to build all these different use cases, and so we want to partner with you. We want to partner with developers and give them very easy access to our technology so that you all can emotion enable your own apps and digital experiences, we like to say, in under a day. So our software development kit enables you to get access to real-time emotion sensing and analytics in your own products. We've worked very hard to make sure that these technologies, or our technology stack, can run in real time on a number of platforms, including Android, iOS, Mac OS, Windows, Linux, and most recently JavaScript and Unity. We also recently announced that our SDK is free for most organizations that do under $1 million in annual revenue. And then again, and here again, the thought is we want to see what you can build with it. We want to see new use cases of this technology. So our SDK at the moment is able to recognize about 20 different facial expressions. Some of them are quite nuanced. So for example, everything from a smile to a nose wrinkle, a lip pucker, a chin raise, and you get that data as a probability score on a moment-by-moment basis. And then these different building blocks of an emotional state get mapped into a range of emotions like anger, contempt, surprise, sadness, as well as a measure of valence, which is how positive or negative a person's facial expression is, and engagement, overall intensity of this emotion. The SDK also provides information about a person's appearance. So we have age, gender, ethnicity, and we're also able to identify the presence of eye or sunglasses. And we map all this data to a number of emojis, and there's very fun examples of how you can integrate that into an emoji keyboard or social media social media apps and platforms. So now that we've provided the SDK, it's out there, it's on our website, it's very easily accessible, and it's very fast to integrate with your own platform or app. Our next area of focus to get to ubiquity is to build a strong community community of users, of evangelists, of advocates, of champions that believe in emotion AI. And that translates into a number of things that we're gearing up towards for early 2017. We are launching a new developer portal. The idea is to create or to have a lot more technical how-to content, newsletters, blogs, knowledge base. We're looking for developer heroes. We'd love to profile you and showcase what kind of emotion AI experience you're working on. We tend to, we're on the road a lot. I just got back from Web Summit where there were about 50,000 attendees, and we would love to highlight your story. Also be on the lookout for the Affectiva hackathon. We had our first hackathon last March. It was very successful, and we are planning for another one sometime in the spring. And then finally, I'll also say we would love to, we'd love to start having more emotion AI meetups around the world. So if you're interested in hosting one, or we'd be happy to work with you to get that going. Let us know. This is our developer portal. This is kind of the number of visits we're getting, and you can see that there's a very healthy growth pattern here. You can also see the breakdown of interest by platform. There's a lot of Windows SDK users, a lot of Android SDK users, but also a trend towards an increased number in our JavaScript SDK as well. We recognize that one of the core, core competitive advantages of what we do is that we provide the best emotion technology out there. And we invest a lot in our core science, in our machine learning, our computer vision, and our analytics. And we're continuously adding new features. This is an example where we would love to hear from you. So if you're using the SDK in a particular way and you have some feedback to give to us, we always like that feedback, and it does influence our roadmap. We also often partner on data as well, so feel free to approach us if that's something that interests you. So recently in our SDK 3.1, we added 6 new facial expressions for a total of 20. We're able to estimate age range and identify ethnicity. We added Unity support for Android and iOS. We also added the JavaScript SDK to allow you to process emotion data in the browser without having to send any videos or images to the cloud, which of course, helps a lot with privacy concerns. And as I mentioned before, this is free for most organizations under $1 million in annual revenue. In terms of our roadmap, what are we working on? So we are working on simplifying the app integration for Linux and Windows app developers. When we first designed the SDK, we put a number of tenets in place, and one of them was we really wanted it to be very easy for people to add this emotion layer to their experiences, to their digital experiences. And so as a developer, you're now able to get all this knowledge that 50 years plus combined knowledge around emotion AI and integrate it into your app in under a day. Improving our face detector and tracker, we've gotten some feedback from early developers, and we've listened to that, and we're working on an improved version that is more robust to head angles and also crowds of people. We're updating our emotion models. We're always adding new emotional states and revising and refining the ones we have already in the SDK, so be on the lookout for that. And then we've gotten requests for adding support for Raspberry Pi, and that opens up a whole range of applications in the IoT space, and that is coming soon as well. And then finally, we're adding emotion event tracking as one of the features of our SDK. So the idea there is that if you're interested in a particular emotional state, say smile, and you're not really interested in anything else, and you want to just get flags when a smile event happens, this would help a lot. So it simplifies that level of coding, and it just gives you an event model to listen to. We're also working on what we're calling the Emotion AI Framework. We'd love some feedback there. The idea is You know, emotion is very contextual. How you express emotions is going to depend on the specific context. And what we've built is a generalized machine learning framework where if you had specific data, say you had data of hundreds of people expressing chronic pain, then you will be able to send us this data. We're going to bootstrap a very specific and tailored classifier, a pain classifier for your use case, and we send you back that emotion model. We believe that that allows us to very quickly enter or play in new markets and new verticals, and it leverages the data that is already out there. It helps our partners gain value from their emotion data through new emotion analytics and visualizations as well as predictors. So to wrap, we are very excited to work with you to build a future where technology is enriched with emotions. You know, we envision retail kiosks that can recommend products based on your reactions, smartphones that track your mood and sync that up with your calendar to give you insights into what makes you happy and what stresses you out, cars that sense emotion, and people are engaging in it. We're seeing a lot of inbound interest from the automotive vertical, both you know, self-driving cars as well as you know, drowsy driver detection and general understanding of driver distraction. Education, we envision apps and experiences that adapt to the learner. This allows us to create personalized learning experiences that are very scalable. It can scale to communities where you do not have access to an awesome teacher. Games that adapt to players in real time, social robots that can display empathy, and remote healthcare that monitors your emotional state in a very objective and quantifiable way. So lots of applications. We're excited to work with you to see what you are going to build with this type of technology. Thank you. Do I have any questions here? So we have a question. Hi, are you sending the slides being presented? I think there is a plan to share these slides after today. We're going to make the where is that? Thank you for making both tracks available. That's great. Yeah, I will say this is the first time we're doing this online developer day, and so do give us feedback on what type of content you'd like to see. We're very open to that. Yeah, Affectiva has less Asian face emotion database, a little bit hard to detect. Is that a rumor or not true? That is absolutely not true. This is a great question. So the question is, how global is Affectiva's data set? So to date, we have collected 4.7 million face videos from 75 countries around the world. The Asian market is actually our biggest market. We do about 60% of all our partnerships, and our data comes from the Asian market. Our top country is India, followed by China, but generally we do a lot of work in Asia. We also have benchmarks and norms that are specific to regions. So we have a Asia-specific benchmark and norm. We have a Latin America-specific norm. So this is a great question. I'd be happy to share some more data about that if anybody's interested. Okay. Gabby's going to post some data on Twitter as well. Yeah, look at the @Affectiva handle on Twitter, and you'll see some data. Great question. Deep learning approaches. Here's another question. I would love to see some of your research papers if available. Please let me know. Yeah, another question from a CS grad student asking about our deep learning approaches for emotion recognition, as well as research papers and shared data, shared label data. So the next track, one of the next talks is led by Jay Turco, who is our head of Applied AI Group. He's going to cover the specific methods and machine learning approaches that we use to train our classifiers. Please join that for more information. We also do have all of our published research papers online on our website under resources. Feel free to download them. We are very open about our methods. We think, you know, that just helps advance the state of the art. So we tend to be very open about our approaches. We also have a data set. So most of our data we do not have permission to share publicly, but for some subset of it, we did get permission to share the face videos publicly, and that is also available on our website. We have another question. When do you believe that consumers will accept this type of technology? That is a great question. We are already seeing examples where consumers are very comfortable to turn the camera on and share their emotions. I strongly believe there needs to be a value, some kind of incentive for the consumer to do that, and that incentive can take many forms. It could be monetary, so you could be a paid panelist, that you're being compensated for turning the camera on and watching an online video. We've certainly scaled that kind of approach globally through our partners in market research and advertising. But also think about incentives where the experience is going to be better because this thing understands your emotions. And one example is social robotics. I mean, social robots have eyes, and it's actually very disappointing to interact with a social robot that has no idea if you're engaged or frustrated with it. So it all boils down to, this is a great question. Sumesh has thought of a lot of use cases and is asking whether there's a platform where we can collaborate with different developers attending today. Yeah. Gabby's going to answer that question. That's a great question.
Yeah, that's actually indeed a really good question, Sumesh. So pre-announcing a little bit, but we are coming out with a new developer portal, hoping to launch that by the end of February. And in that developer portal, we're building in a whole community component so that people can just sign up for a user account on the developer portal and engage in the way that you exactly described there, because we want a free and open dialogue around all these different use cases, and we want all these different developers working with our tech to share code, share ideas, and kind of promote what it is that they're doing. So, today we have a fairly basic developer portal that just has a knowledge base and some content. We're really looking to build it out into a robust community. And Sumesh, if you want to be part of that, send us a note or email me, Gabi, G-A-B-I, @affectiva.com. Love to get you involved. Thanks. Good question.
Another question is, will there be any code examples today? Yes, there will be a ton. Stick around for those. Yeah, and lots of demos as well. So what kind of live dashboard? We're going to show examples of that, I believe, throughout the day. Are the difference between region emotions significant? Is ethnicity something we should take into account when interpreting classifier output? I would say we do see a difference. So facial expressions are universal, but there's nuances in terms of how people respond. So I would encourage you to be cognizant of that. Do you have a job board for matching companies that need help and people who can offer help? I have students that need internships and projects. I love that. We have been talking about creating an emotion hub or an emotion AI think tank where we can bring people who want to contribute. So definitely get in touch with us. We are interested in internships and projects. Yeah, there's a question about price. If revenue is more than $1 million, you approach us. It's typically an annual licensing fee, but we're pretty flexible. We want to work with you. So, all right. Well, thank you again so much. Keep the questions coming in, and enjoy the rest of the day. Hi, I'm going to do a few more questions while Jay gets set up. How about integration with other sensors? Great question. So our API does not specifically integrate other sensors, but if other sensors do have a public API, then it should be pretty straightforward to do that. We do work with iMotions. They have a platform for integrating multiple sensors, and Affectiva's technology is part of that. Definitely look out for it. They have integrated physiology sensors, brainwave sensors, as well as facial coding.
Hey, Rana, Jay here.
Awesome. Handing it over to Jay. Thanks, everyone.